You know, and a lot of people like want to hate, whatever. He doesn't dance, he doesn't do that thing. I'm like, whatever, you know. Right. This man has literally put Puerto Rico where it's at today. You know, a lot of, you know, I wouldn't say, I think he's done more than the government has. He's done more for Puerto Rico than the government has done for Puerto Rico, you know?
Yeah. What up? It's Dramos, and this is the recap, of course, as I do each and every week, breaking down some of the biggest headlines from this last week. And man, I just want to have some fun this week because pop culture has been far more interesting than the news, which is just so incredibly heavy and depressing right now. So I wanna cut out the BS from today's show and just lighten up the mood a bit. And we will do that with my guest, who's actually been on the show before. This will be his second time appearing. He is just an incredible content creator. You've seen him all over TikTok. You've seen him getting reposted on all types of giant Latin Instagram pages. And man, we're going to break down some of the nonsense we saw on the Oscars, man, and a bunch of other things that have been going on this last week. My guy, Dean Huertas. How you feeling, bro?
Dímelo. I'm feeling good. That's 8 in the morning and we live and well.
Yes, man, we out here, bro. I appreciate you hopping on. You've been doing your thing. I liked having you on the first time, so I'm glad we can connect again because I feel like there's a lot happening that you've been talking about, man. So I want to get your take on a lot of these current events we've been talking about.
Definitely. No, I'm ready to dive into it, man.
All right, so I mean, let's just kind of start with the elephant in the room. Is the Oscars. It's all anybody can talk about. You can't escape it on your timeline. Now, there are two different reasons why you could talk about it. Obviously, you have the Will Smith, Chris Rock one, and then also what I've seen you covering when it comes to West Side Story and much of kind of the backlash that you've seen on the internet with people talking their ish, right? Let's first start with the general one that everybody's talking about. Will Smith, Chris Rock. Chris Rock makes a joke about Will Smith's wife, Jada. You know, Will goes up on stage, smacks him, curses from the audience. Everybody's talking about it. What is your take on this? You know, from now, I guess, a few days out. What are you thinking about it?
Man, like, I can't stop thinking about it. I have a internal conflict within myself because one, like a brother like Chris Rock, like first of all, I admire them both. They're very talented people. They've been in the industry for a very long time. They've been friends for 30 years. Like Chris Rock was on an episode of Fresh Prince, like way back in like 95, you know? And so they've always like been cool with each other since the 90s. And so for that to just happen the way it did, like I'm just putting myself in Chris Rock's perspective that he got publicly humiliated in front of millions and millions of people around the world, man. That's where I felt was wrong. But then I also feel bad for Will because of how he can only stay quiet and stay humble for so long about his relationship with Jada, about everything that goes on like with the world. Everybody's bashing their relationship. And I feel like that was just the cherry pick of it all with like that one little joke that set it off for him because and it was more of just like him having to I'm gonna use my words wisely, him having to display his masculinity in order to let him know that, you know, he's a serious man and don't disrespect his relationship like that. Whether it was about the joke, but I believe that it goes a little bit more than beyond the joke. I believe it goes about the relationships and how everybody's just been going off on their relationship because Jada has been very vocal about it, but Will has always been quiet for so long. And I think it was just like a moment where he snapped. So I feel bad for Chris for getting publicly humiliated, and I feel bad for Will for having to hold in this internal anger for so long, you know?
Right. It's interesting, man. I mean, obviously, I think flat out, Will was wrong. You don't go up there and lay hands on another man, especially, you know, if you have an issue, you don't handle it on a public stage like that. You know, there's a level of privilege that comes along with being Will Smith that he could just, you know, walk up on stage and swing at another dude. You know, anybody else can't do that, you know, but I think I definitely see what you're saying. I mean, Will has kind of been, you know, as much as he is Will Smith, he's also been the butt of many jokes, you know, and he's just kind of had to smile about it and, you know, take it on the chin. And, even recently there's been, you know, a couple of red carpet things where people brought back up the entanglement thing, you know, to their face. And like people were saying it was in poor taste again, which I think it is. And yeah, I think what you saw was a dude who just kind of snapped, like got tired of having to take it and went up there. And yeah, like I think you're like you said, there's some sort of masculinity he felt like he had to prove, like I'm not that dude that is just gonna keep taking people's abuse, you know? And unfortunately Chris Rock was kind of the person that ended up getting caught in the crossfire of all of that, you know? But also what was weird to me is that if you look at it, Will was laughing at the joke at first, right? And then you could see Jada is like not laughing. She's kind of rolling her eyes and it's kind of like, what the hell, you know? So a part of me saw that and was kind of like, how much of this is maybe performative as well for Will, where it's like, you know, he was ready to brush it off and then he saw his wife was pissed and he was like, you know what, now's my time to kind of like stand up and be a man type of thing. That just feels a bit performative, you know?
Exactly. No, and that's the thing too. Like we saw him like laughing, but I think it was just more like, but like MFer, like, you know, like I'm tired of this, bro. And that's the thing. Like everybody in Hollywood has to put up a front of smiling and laughing, having to take the hits for so long that but I think when it got personal with how let's just imagine him and his wife behind closed doors, her having to like cry to him in confinement about her having to deal with her disability, you know? And I feel like him and her, like right there in the front of the camera, like he's trying to like, you know, make light of the situation, but she couldn't have it. And I think like by doing so, having to defend his wife caused him to step onto the stage and do what he did, you know? And I feel it's just so much like internal conflict because I get it because he wants to laugh, but I think he just had enough, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there obviously is a lot of internal conflict. I think for me also looking at it, man, and this is my own opinion, but I know that for me, when I create content, I put myself out there. I also feel like I'm representing Puerto Ricans everywhere, right? So there is a level of pressure that I put on myself. And granted, that's my own, you know, decision, but I know that I want to carry myself in a certain way to make sure that I never make my people look bad, essentially, right? And listen, again, to each his own, but you hate to see, you know, this narrative being, you know, put out there about Black men, essentially, you know, about, you know, not being able to control their feelings and being violent, all these racist things that we've heard throughout history. And then it like feeds into that on one of the biggest stages in the world, you know, national television and things like that. Now, again, you know, you don't have to put that kind of pressure on yourself, but I personally, you know, for me, always want to show up as the best version of myself because I feel like I'm representing more than just myself. And that's something I keep in mind when I watch that kind of stuff as well.
Exactly. So I want to make sure that when I'm on, it's true. You're 100% right. You know, you're putting your face out there. You are the face of millions that don't have a voice. Right.
And especially those who have been like persecuted. You know what I mean? Like we're people of color, where people have traditionally been looked at as lesser than, you know what I mean? So it's like you never want to give off that impression to others and make them feel like they're right, you know?
Exactly. And I just feel like having to represent them in a positive manner, it takes a toll on you.
Sure.
Like through time, you know, because now that you're the representation, now you have to kind of reserve yourself in many, many ways and kind of hold back your tongue in many ways because whatever you say is a reflection of your community and your demographics of where you come from, you know?
Right. Absolutely. All right. So, and what do you think they're doing? Like, I guess, an investigation, which I don't know what the hell you have to investigate, but, you know, do you think that he should be like stripped of his award? Because he ended up winning that award later on in the show. What do you think as far as like actions that should be taken against him? Because Chris Rock already said he's not pressing charges, so he's not going to be arrested for this. But what do you think about like when it comes to the Academy?
I don't think the Academy would go as far as to take the award because if you've seen The Godfather, like that's already celebrated its 50th anniversary.
Right.
When one of the best supporting actresses, she was a Native American. She's Apache and Yankee, and she her name is Little Feather. She, you know, won the award, but as soon as she stepped on stage, she denied it and then decided to use her activism voice and her voice to speak up in the community. And then like a lot of people like got really upset about it because she took that opportunity to represent her community and represent the Native American community and uplift it. And there was a lot of controversy after that, but she still has her award at the end of the day. She still earned her award, even though she denied it on stage and used that opportunity to uplift the voices of her community to do so, you know? But she still has it. It was like 50 years later, and she still has her award. So I don't think they'll go as far as to remove Will's first award either, you know?
Right, yeah. I think that's a good point. I don't think you should remove the award because I think everything he did to get there, you know, had nothing to do with that night in particular. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
He still was the best actor in his category according to the Academy. I would say maybe give him a ban from the show, you know, for a period of time, like he can't go next year or something like that.
Just a little time out for the next time.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, let him cool down a little bit, you know, sit in the corner somewhere and think about what he did. But that's
just send him to live with his auntie in Bel Air.
Yeah, exactly. So I would probably do that, I think. But I agree. I don't think you should strip the man, you know, of his award. Now, speaking of awards, you had West Side Story, which was nominated for a bunch of awards. It ended up taking home Best Supporting Actress, amongst other things. You had Ariana DeBose won Best Supporting Actress, and there's been a bunch of backlash in the Latin community when it comes to West Side Story, and a lot of people, you know, feeling like they, you know, it was an improvement from the first one, but still wasn't enough. And also I saw you talking about this where there were a lot of people kind of, I guess, coming at you talking about how West Side Story didn't even have any real Puerto Ricans in it. So let's kind of, let's talk about that first and foremost a little bit. What kind of, you've been entwined in a bit of the controversy. What has kind of been your experience with it?
Man, this is the thing within my respectable community and our people as well, you know?
Yeah.
That it seems like everybody's just so ready to just hop on this cancel culture bandwagon and look for any little reason to divide the community.
Right.
We have been portrayed on the media in such a negative light for many, many years.
Right.
And when we get as little as something positive in the representation of the community, whether that be West Side Story, many years ago when Rita Moreno was the only Puerto Rican, to now having a movie today with 20 plus Puerto Ricans that are in the movie or backstage or putting the work to help produce the movie.
Yeah.
And everyone's just going to cancel it because they simply just don't want to do the research. They're just hearing, oh, there's no Puerto Ricans. I'm not going to watch it.
Right.
Oh, it's a musical. Oh, I'm not going to watch it. Oh, she's only half Puerto Rican. Oh, I'm not going to watch it. It's like, you know, there's always going to be some sort of division created with the community. And I feel like the more we divide, the more we realize that we're beating ourselves down.
Yeah.
And in actuality, we have to lift each other up because if we want to be represented in the respectable light that we deserve and that we deserve for a very long time now, then we have to start little by little by supporting each other rise and uplifting each other. Yeah. And the support the community goes by stop boycotting a movie without even doing your research. You know, that's how society has come to nowadays. And I just think I think it's embarrassing to just say that you have an opinion about something without even doing your own research about it.
Right.
You know?
Right. There's the least you can do is go do your Googles, you know what I mean? But
it's right there. The internet is free. Like
it's all right there. And yeah, I mean, I think that people feel like it's one or the other. Either I have to hate it and I think it should never happen, it should be canceled, or it has to be completely perfect. And you have to understand that, you know, it's never going to be 100% right. It's never going to be 100% perfect. And that in the meantime, while we're improving, you could still celebrate the little wins along the way, right? Like nobody's saying that they got it 100% right. You know what I mean? Like nobody is saying that completely. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you can't support it. You know, you can say, wow, this is a great opportunity for us to see some representation. And next time we can do a little bit better as well. You know what I mean? I don't understand this kind of like either cancel it or it's perfect. You know, I don't understand why it has to be either or.
No, exactly. People are so quick and radical with their decisions. Yes, the main character is not Puerto Rican. Right. Puerto Rican is a nationality. Yeah. But that doesn't take away the heritage and the cultural upbringing. You look at a Colombian, you look at a Puerto Rican, they have similar upbringings within the community. You know, we eat the same plate of rice and beans every day. We eat we put the same type of seasonings on our chicken, you know? Like, there's we do a lot more good when we come together than we do when we're divided, you know? And granted, yes, she is a white passing Latina, and she's only half Latina, but she's still, in my personal opinion, I think her talent and her effort to play the role as a Puerto Rican shows. The proof is in the pudding. She did an amazing job, but people automatically are just going to assume that, oh, she's not Puerto Rican. You know what? I don't want to watch it, whatever. But can we just go back to the 90s when J-Lo played as Selena?
Right,
you know?
Right.
And who won an award for that movie? Like, you know, okay. And it was because of that movie that it was a win-win for Selena's story to be told. It was a win for J-Lo's career to kick off back then, you know? It's not about the nationality. It's about the talent that each individual has, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think that's actually a great point, you know, and nobody's pissed off about that one, right? Because as long as it was good, which it was, as long as the story was told in a respectful manner, which it was, we were all happy. You know, even Mexicans celebrate that movie. You know, you don't hear this really, you know, angry, you know, I personally haven't heard, you know, any Mexican friends or complaining about the fact that Selena was played by Jennifer Lopez, a Puerto Rican. They're just happy that she was represented in such an incredible manner, that her story was told.
And look how far they've come with so many like retakes of Selena's story.
Right.
So many, like now we have a live show about Selena. You know, there's many adaptations because of the efforts that they made to have a very talented person play this specific role. Yeah. You know, and now we have actual Mexicans playing Selena, you know, but it takes time. And I believe that you shouldn't like discourage somebody because of their nationality when they have the similar ethnic background to play that role, you know?
Right. No, exactly. It wasn't like they casted like a blonde-haired white girl with blue eyes to play a Puerto Rican, you know?
On top of that, they didn't do the brown face that they did back in the 60s for West Side Story, you know? They didn't do that. They actually got Latin folks to play these Latin roles.
Right. Exactly. No, I agree. I think it's an improvement. And did you see that the Oscars didn't invite Rachel Zegler from West Side Story to the award show? And then last minute, after it went viral, they invited her to come present at the awards. I thought that was another thing people were talking about.
No, I actually didn't see that. No, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's just man, we're taking, you know, 2 steps forward, but always 1 step back. Where it's like they had to. It took public opinion for them to invite one of the stars of a movie that's been you know, nominated for multiple awards at their show. It's just interesting to me.
Damn.
Now let's kind of talk about, now we've mentioned Puerto Rico. Let's talk about on the island. You know, I know I've seen you at some of these protests that we've been seeing. We had one of the things I guess that kicked it off was you had like this Karen that thought that she owned the beach in Puerto Rico in the Condado area, if I'm not mistaken, and was trying to kick these guys off from playing you know, some games on the beach. And the result ended up being a bunch of people the next weekend throwing like a giant festival on that same exact spot in protest. So I mean, let's talk a bit about what has been going on the island, because there is a lot of pushback happening with some of the gentrification that's happening, and people like this Karen thinking that just because they bought an expensive house, they now get to own the beach, which there are no private beaches in Puerto Rico. All the beaches are public. So let's kind of talk about, I mean, man, you're living out there. What have you experienced and kind of these protests in general that you've been a part of?
Like it's sad because that Karen is actually Puerto Rican too, you know, but she has a American husband and such. And I think the money came with a sense of entitlement.
Sure.
And that caused her to think she's above the rest of the community and sort of think that she can do whatever she pleases on the beaches. Even though she doesn't even live on the beach.
Right.
Like, you know? So the fact that this is happening within the communities, you know, it's just, it hurts because we're only going so hard as to uplift Puerto Rico.
Right.
And try to make a better version of Puerto Rico after all the disasters that we've had, whether that be the government, whether that be natural disasters, whether that be the gentrification that's taking place now. We're all just trying to do our part to help Puerto Rico one day at a time, you know?
Right.
And that successful protest that we had was able to lead up to the news and saying, this is, you're going to like this.
Yeah.
The news went to that neighborhood and saw that the neighborhood put a banner saying that lady does not represent us. We know these beaches are public and we're sorry that happened. Feel free to protest as much as you like, you know?
Oh, wow.
So
That's
that was
amazing.
a stepping stone. And like, if we can do that, what else can we do, you know?
Right.
Now we're going to Dorado, where private beach club bought the property, bought the land up until the beach. So they decided to put rocks in the way to prevent locals from entering that public beach.
Sure.
And now we have the south side of Puerto Rico, Salinas, which was there was a whole nature reserve. It got tumbled down without nobody even knowing until the damage has been already done.
Yeah.
Now they're converting that into like a gated community where it used to be a public beach out there too, you know? It's happening nonstop. There's like always something new every single day. Every single day there's something new. And we've come to the reality where it's like we're literally in a fight or flight situation where we have to continue fighting for our rights. We have to continue defending our beaches that are rightfully ours from people that want to privatize it, people that want to buy it and turn it into another hotel. Because if we don't continue fighting for all these hotels, Puerto Rico is just going to be one big hotel.
Right. Yeah, it's scary to see. I mean, I've been following, I can never pronounce her last name, Bianca, who does all the YouTube videos. Yeah, there you go. So she's been really great at documenting all these different things that we've been seeing, you know. But one thing I'm curious about, because I feel like I don't hear it spoken about enough. I mean, obviously, you know, you have this the people coming from the States buying up everything essentially, right? Especially when you're talking about in the wake of Hurricane Maria, and you had a lot of these vacant properties that were being sold for essentially nothing, right? And you have all these developers coming over here to buy things up. You know, you wonder about the local government though, because they're playing a part in this, right? They're allowing areas to be sold that should be protected areas, right? I saw that she was talking about parts of El Yunque were for sale. You know, you have this tax break that happens for people in the States that they can come over to Puerto Rico and essentially pay no taxes as long as they're bringing a quote unquote business to the island, right? And that business doesn't have real stipulations of being an actual business. It could just be some guy who trades stocks in his bedroom and he quote unquote has a business, right? And the government also hasn't been great at keeping up with making sure these people are doing what they're supposed to be doing to meet those guidelines to not pay taxes. So
correct.
What I'm curious about, are there people on the island when you talk about these protests that are also saying our own government is selling us out as well? You know, we can't be mad at just people coming here who see an opportunity to make an easy buck, because at the end of the day, that's capitalism that happens. And I'm not saying that it's right, you know, but it happens all over the world, right? The government needs to protect the people at the end of the day from being pushed out of their own land. So, I mean, are there enough conversations happening about that? How the government seems to have this corrupt kind of hand of thinking that they need outsiders to come in to save the island?
Yes, there are a few people that have been uplifting that in a very positive way, because any of these people that are protesting 9 out of 10 do not rely on the government at all.
Right.
At all, because those were the 9 out of 10 chance that those were the same people that protested to remove the governor, because these governors and politicians in Puerto Rico, they're not like Republican, Democrat. They represent each individual party, whether that's statehood, whether that's status quo, whether that's independence. But the ones that have been in charge for the past 50 years have always been statehood or status quo. They've been working hand in hand to sell a dream to these people, and they're just taking money under their under their feet, you know, and stealing from the community. And would you believe me if I told you that if just one political party has had more than 50 arrests within the past 5 years?
Wow.
And people are still voting for that same party because they're hooked on the dream of becoming a state for Puerto Rico.
Well, I saw Ricky Rosselló still got elected to another position, in that last
this
election.
Man who got, this man who got kicked out of Puerto Rico somehow made his way into representing Puerto Rico, but just outside of Puerto Rico.
Right,
because,
right.
It's crazy. It mind-boggling me,
Yeah, it's sad because, I think a lot of the anger is justified, but you also have to look in your own backyard where it's like, listen, like, they're also giving away the keys to the castle. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, people are people. They're going to take advantage of any opportunity they can to make a buck. And most people, sadly, don't have the morals to give a damn about who they're stepping on to get to where they want to be. So it's up to the local government then to step in and be like, yo, we want to protect ourselves. But they're more than willing to give away the keys to the castle. And I feel like I want to see more people outraged on the island about that. You know what I mean? Because that's where the real issue lies at the end of the day.
Exactly. And on top of that, too, it's like what they're doing is that they're selling, these Americans or foreign investors the land just so they can help pay off the debt that obviously Puerto Rico didn't decide in the first place, But they're doing all this to like give away Puerto Rico because they think that these gringos son dioses, and that's what Bad Bunny said before he stopped doing interviews. Bad Bunny made it very clear that he doesn't want statehood for Puerto Rico, that he, like me, doesn't believe that these Americans are gods, and there's a lot of Puerto Ricans that unfortunately believe that without the white man, like we wouldn't have a Puerto Rico like we do today, But it takes our own community to help rebuild our community,
Right.
The foreigner that's gonna come into this community is gonna demolish this community and just put another hotel,
Right. Yeah, they're gonna turn it into another Hawaii, and you hear horror stories out of Hawaii about the residents there, working at these hotels that are supposedly creating jobs, but having to sleep in their cars because they can't afford to live in the area where they work, and it's just terrible. And you can see that, God forbid, happening to Puerto Rico. And the last thing I'll say is, while the government is trying to give all of these sort of incentives to bring outside businesses to the island, why aren't you incentivizing local Puerto Ricans to open their own businesses, right? How many vacant commercial spaces are there throughout Puerto Rico? How many, even I stayed in Fajardo a couple of years ago, and the downtown area is beautiful, but it's not a bustling downtown area the way that it could be. You know what I mean? So why not give opportunity to young people, people like yourself, whoever who wants to start a business, say, we're going to give you some sort of break, some sort of credit to start businesses to flourish the local economy. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where the divide becomes, because if you have people like us that, want to help rebuild Puerto Rico, we are of Puerto Rican descent. We actually qualify to move out to Puerto Rico, and we can qualify to get a tax break. We can qualify to get a business tax break. We qualify for all of that, and I personally believe, and this is me, I believe that we can do that, and we should do that, because rather it's for us, by us. But a lot of people don't see it like that. A lot of people see that, we don't have the resources to do so. A lot of other people are going to say that, no, we're too poor to do this. I'm like, that's where I'm like, we've been under the boot of USA for about 125 years.
Sure.
And we've come out on top a lot of times. We have a lot of people, and this is not everybody, but a lot of us, we already have our own homes. We have our own businesses. We have our own communities in the States. I believe that it's time to come home and we can reinvest in a better Puerto Rico, because we want a Puerto Rico for us, by us,
Yeah. No, I love that sentiment. I completely agree. And I think that, you see the power of the people and their creative ideas in places like Calle Loíza, which is has become this really trendy area. And it's really dope local businesses, right? You have cool clothing boutiques, cool bars, little breweries, all kinds of cool, interesting things. It feels like in New York where you would have Williamsburg before it became super gentrified, where you had these really, trendy areas where it was dope local businesses, right? And it's me, I look at that and bro, why not? You see that you guys are able to create something, right? Because the reality is outsiders weren't coming into Calle Loíza because that wasn't a great area at that time, right? but you guys made it
No, it
trendy. You guys made it cool, right? You made that the spot to be. You killed the nightlife in Isla Verde because you made Calle Luisa cool, right? So why is that not the example to you to continue doing that all over the island? Like there's the power right there, you know?
I 110% agree. And I feel like we can definitely do something as little as community service or something as little as, you know, give just donations, giving back to the community to help rebuild the community, you know, because at the end of the day, we deserve to thrive just like everybody else. You know, we deserve to live the life we want, you know?
Absolutely.
And with all these restrictions that goes on in Puerto Rico, you know, a lot of people just feel like, well, this is just how things are now, you know? And me, being a New Yorican, I'm not gonna take that for an answer, bro. I'm like, no, we gotta do better, you know? And I believe that as, you know, this is why I advocate for what I advocate for, you know, that we can give back to the community and we can be a prosperous and hopefully independent Puerto Rico one day, you know?
Nah, I agree, bro. I love that. And I think that there is, you know, unfortunately, there's a bit of that island lifestyle mindset that where you sit back a little bit. It's very relaxed, you know? And I think for us as New Yorkers, we're always just like, go, go, go. So it's a little bit frustrating, you know, for us. But I think that they have to kind of adapt a bit of that on the island. And you're seeing it, obviously, with the protests and things like that. But you know, the majority of the island has to wake up a bit and realize that if you keep sitting back and thinking that somebody's going to come and save you, you're going to lose Puerto Rico as you knew it. You know, the culture of it, of our island will be gone eventually, you know. So it's something that a lot of people have to wake up to. Now, on a positive note, bro, last thing I want to ask you, man, I mean, somewhat positive, but I want to celebrate his legacy. Daddy Yankee retiring, you know, obviously incredibly sad. Yep. Single tear shed. I saw you post about this, posting about what this man means to you, what his legacy means to you. So, I mean, let's kind of talk about that a bit. I mean, I know I'm a couple weeks off on this, but I would love to kind of hear your perspective on Daddy Yankee retiring and what he means to our culture.
So me, like, I just want to go backtrack to, let's picture me in high school back in like 2010, whatever.
Sure.
Right? Back in the day.
Yeah.
I had no representation whatsoever on any media. And the only reggaeton artist that created Barrio Fino, the album Barrio Fino, created Gasolina, created Lo Que Pasó Pasó. Like that music was one of the biggest ones that stuck out to me in my upbringing, you know? And especially I went to a predominantly white school, you know? So everybody had their Taylor Swift or whatever they was listening to. But that wasn't my music. It wasn't for me. It wasn't made for me. It wasn't made for my demographic, you know? So when I had Daddy Yankee, like that was me, you know, that was like, this is where my people come from. This is how my people get down. And I've always been that one Puerto Rican kid in the high school. I was literally just that one Puerto Rican kid. Oh, I had the jersey, bro. I had the tank top, bro, with the flag. I had like 3 bags. I had a bandana, bro. I thought I was like the gang. Like I was that one kid, you know, because it was just the pride that I have of where my family comes from and how far we've come to get to where we are today, you know, and to have that representation of music or music videos or movies on media, you know, he was my biggest inspiration. And now we look to today. And my biggest inspiration and somebody that, you know, a personal icon to me and a legend to me is retiring. I'm just like, damn, bro. Like, it feels like yesterday I was just like in high school jamming to music. But, you know, I've always respected his legacy. I've always respected his grind. And I've respected how far he's come because I knew his story about how he started in the projects, which, funny enough, now I'm living in like the same neighborhood as where he used to live. And he's like a legend out in the hood as well. You know how he got shot. He was going to play baseball, and he ended up using that bullet as motivation to just take a step up into the music industry and to become the best musician and artist ever. And in doing so, became a multimillionaire in the process of doing so, and being the face of not just Puerto Rico but Latin American industry and opening the world to reggaeton.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. It's funny because I remember that too when he first came out. When you're talking about when Gasolina was blowing up, you know, and being here in the New York area, you know, hearing it all over the place, and then even now till this day as a DJ, when you play it, it doesn't matter what club you're in, a white club, a Latin club, a black club, like you play Gasolina and everybody is singing the words, and there's something beautiful about that, you know, and then even taking it back again to that time period, he kicked the door down for other reggaeton artists to then emerge into the mainstream. Like I can even remember MTV doing like a whole piece back in the day, like MTV News, when they went to Puerto Rico, and they went and like, because, off of the back of Daddy Yankee being so popular, people like Calle 13 got onto MTV, people like Julio Voltio got onto MTV, Tego Calderon was on MTV, so it was like he kicked that door in and made Puerto Rico kind of have this international attention because of the music. And then essentially, that spread throughout Latin America, now where we see so many different artists that are involved in this genre that we love so much. And a lot of it is in huge thanks to Daddy Yankee and kind of pioneering this world,
Exactly. Look, you have reggaeton influence throughout Mexico, throughout Colombia.
Right.
Like we have all these other Latin American countries, like Becky G, J Balvin. Even though I have my personal opinions about J Balvin, but nonetheless, like he has some good songs. I'll give him credit, but whatever. But I can't believe J Balvin retired, not because he wanted to, but because Residente from Calle 13 kind of kicked his ass,
We'll see how long it lasts. I mean, but do you think retirement's gonna last for Daddy Yankee?
I feel like he's not gonna like make music anymore. Maybe I feel like he's still gonna be doing work from like maybe producing for other artists. I feel like he'll still like come up with like other like projects, or maybe if he's invited to perform at the awards one day or once in a while, or even present an award once in a while. I feel like he'll still do stuff like that, but like more like maybe behind the scenes work because of Cartel Records that he owns in his label, and producing music for other artists, and up and coming artists. Like I feel like he'll still do some type of work, but he won't make any more music after this album.
It's, I mean, I hope that we're wrong about that, because it's funny, man, because it feels like he just got like a new resurgence a couple of years ago, kind of when he started working with Bad Bunny, and like it was like this, the younger generation began to really embrace a lot of the OG guys, and a lot of them have gotten this resurgence, and Daddy Yankee now became like a name once again as far as like a currently relevant artist, and it's interesting that now is the time he chooses to retire. But I guess, going out on top, I guess.
Exactly. Giving his all out one last time. He hasn't announced the dates for Puerto Rico yet, but I know he will. I just know it. I know it. And I will.
Where do you think he's gonna play?
There's either gonna be before his world tour or after his world tour. Maybe I think it's gonna be after his world tour. And then he'll go with a big bang. In the baseball stadium, because he owns the baseball team out here. He owns the Santurce Cangrejeros, which is Roberto Clemente's one of his first baseball team,
Oh, wow.
So Daddy Yankee owns that baseball team now, so there's a chance that he might do it at that stadium where Bad Bunny did it, Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
He's got to do like a whole week though, you know what I'm saying? Like he can't just do like one or two shows. He's got to be there for like a whole week and give everybody the chance to see him one last time.
Exactly, because how many we're talking. This man is from the 90s, bro. How many people like listen to music from the 90s now? Everybody's want to go to Puerto Rico to go see him and perform.
Yeah, no, absolutely, multi generations, man. Yeah, he definitely a big huge person in our culture. His legacy lives on forever, and I think somebody that we can agree that always represented us with the utmost respect, and that's why he is such a a giant figure. So I mean, man, you just got to give your shout outs to Daddy Yankee for all that he's done for the culture.
Absolutely. And a lot of people like want to hate whatever he doesn't dance, he doesn't do that thing. I'm like, whatever,
Right.
This man has literally put Puerto Rico where it's at today. A lot of I wouldn't say, I think he's done more than the government has done. He's done more for Puerto Rico than the government has done for Puerto Rico,
Yeah, you might be right about that. So listen, man, I appreciate you hopping on the show. What are you working on right now? I know you're always constantly making your videos and everything like that. So where do you want to kind of push people to?
So right now, you're going to see it later today. But so my next project that I have lined up is going to be to rebuild a roof for my neighbor, believe it or not, because my neighbor hasn't had a roof since Hurricane Maria. And she had to live without a roof for 5 years, man.
Wow.
She's 70 years old. Lives with her 2 grandchildren, and has been struggling like every other night for the past 5 years because what a lot of people tend to forget is that we in the Caribbean, bro. it rains every other day.
Right.
So when it rains, the rain gets inside her home. And that doesn't matter whether that's at 10 a.m. or 3 a.m., you know?
Yeah.
So she has to maintain her home. She's doing that for so long. So I'm creating a fundraiser to help rebuild the roof for, her name is Rosa. And I'm happy to announce that I'm working with this local nonprofit organization, a volunteer group on top of that too, that's going to help rebuild Rosa. So as soon as I make that post, I'll send you a personal video, and hopefully we can spread the word of helping rebuild the roof for Rosa, you know?
Oh, that's beautiful, bro. I'd love to see you doing some work, and I'll definitely donate what I can for that. I think that's an incredible thing to see, bro. Absolutely. And where can people follow you, bro?
They can follow me on TikTok at Dean Huertas. That's DeanHuertas. And you can follow me on Instagram at Huertas Dean PR. That's HuertasDeanPR. Much love, y'all. I appreciate the invite.
Of course, my bro. I'll talk to you soon. Man, big shout out to my guy, Dean Huertas, not only creating amazing content, but also putting in that work. So make sure you go follow him on Instagram so you can participate in the fund that he is doing to help his neighbor repair her roof after Hurricane Maria. I'll be reposting it on my socials, so you can go and check it out there at DJ Dramos. Now, man, let's continue this positivity that we have and end on the lines of a positive quote. All right, so this week's quote comes to us from a Stoic philosopher, Petrarch, and the quote is, "Like our stomachs, our minds are hurt more often by overeating than by hunger." And man, I love this quote. I think that it fits into all that we've been talking about this week, especially by someone losing their cool. And I think it's about overthinking situations, making situations into something that they're not, allowing feelings to consume you, to poison your mind into thinking something is more than it actually is. And we saw the case with Will Smith, and hopefully this man gets himself some help to really deal with whatever it is that actually was going on with him that night that caused him to snap. But I think oftentimes our mind overthinks things. We tend to ingest far more information than is necessary, and that sometimes clouds the reality of what is going on, and oftentimes allows us to do things that we inevitably will end up regretting. So it's important to try and remain level-headed, to not try and read too deeply into what is out there, what you're seeing, and really just kind of see it at face value. Because I think oftentimes when we look at a situation, we begin to add meaning to it that isn't obviously there. We then blow it up in our minds, and it becomes something more than it actually was, right? This is called transference, and we're transferring old emotions, old feelings, and attaching them to new situations, and that can be incredibly dangerous. And oftentimes we will find ourselves hurting people who had nothing to do with the thing that was actually bothering us. And man, Chris Rock, sadly, is an example of that in the case of Will Smith and what we saw at the Oscars. So just some food for thought, something to keep in mind, and to remember to, man, just breathe and remember where you are, what's going on, and try not to, man, have any unnecessary casualties on your path towards healing. Now, with that said, thank y'all so much for tuning into another episode. We'll be back next week to break down all of the nonsense that happens between now and then. And we'll get back into the politics. I just wanted to lighten it up a little bit this week. But until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.